Online versus in person. What has your experience been like, and which do you prefer?
I'd be curious about Brian, who got stuffed into doing online because
true.
COVID.
That's true, because COVID.
The biggest disappointment that we experienced with it going online is that my wife was not happy that she didn't go to Las Vegas again. She went with me in 2019, and she said, "Well, how are your sessions today?" I said, "Oh, they were really good. And I learned about this and learned about this." She said, "I sat by the pool all day." You're a jerk. I joke about that, but I was disappointed I didn't get to speak in person. I think the opportunity to do that would have been amazing, to connect in person with some of these people. Like, when I went in 19, I got to meet Kara. I met Tim Slade, who was awesome.
Yeah, he is.
I met David Anderson from Articulate. I met Tom Coleman. I met these really incredible people, and that was exciting to me. I was looking forward to doing that. I didn't get to meet Betty, which I was disappointed I didn't get to meet Betty. Jonathan Hill, who's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, in our industry. He and I were like, we're going to meet up. We're going to have an adult beverage, and we're going to hang out. And then we didn't get to do that. So I think the experience of being able to stand up in front of people, I missed that. I really did. What I would say is that because everything went online, instead of it being condensed into 3 days, it took place over 2 weeks. That meant more opportunity to see more sessions, to learn more information. But I will also say that there was not nearly as many speakers at the same time. So, I looked at the schedule when I found out that I was accepted. I was like, yes, I'm so excited. And I looked at the schedule and I found my time, and I'm pumped up. And I looked to see who else was speaking. And Jonathan Hill was speaking at the exact same time. And Meg Bertapelli, I think, was speaking at the exact same time. And I legitimately told my coworkers, no one is coming to my sessions because Jonathan Hill and Meg Bertapelli are speaking at the exact same time.
But that's not what happened, just FYI.
No, it's not. It did actually. So instead of having 7, 8, 10 people speaking at once, there were only 4 or 5. And so there was more opportunity to speak to more people. And I really did enjoy this. So there's benefits and there's drawbacks either way. I would have loved to have been able to speak at the conference in person. I would have loved to have been able to connect. I would have loved to be able to sit down at lunch and talk to Betty or talk to Destry or talk to any of these people who I was looking forward to meet. That would have been awesome. And I missed that. At the same time, the online opportunity really created a lot of benefits. I was able to sit in this exact same spot and speak from this exact same spot, and it was very comfortable for me. And I wasn't overwhelmed. As soon as I got done, I took my headset off and I played with my dogs. And 2 days later, I was here for my daughter's birthday, and it was great. And I didn't have to worry about those things. So yeah, there's benefits and drawbacks either way you go.
Yeah, and I'll just to tag on, because I agree with everything you said, but just to tag on is that it opened the opportunity for people who otherwise couldn't attend to attend.
Absolutely.
We definitely saw that with Learnapalooza this year. Learnapalooza, Kristen's like, yeah, me too. Learnapalooza was a local Seattle-based in-person conference until COVID. And Learnapalooza typically had maybe 100 people. And they had close to 500 because they had to do it online and went online. So they were able to hit so many people outside of the Seattle area and bring in different speakers from all over the country because they didn't have to travel in. So in some ways, there's definitely benefit to those of us who want to attend. However, in this Zoom-based society now, let's look where we are right now. We're not.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. So it's tiring to just be on the computer all the time. So it's like you said, there's good things, there's bad things. For me, it's always, if I get a chance to speak, I'd love to be in person. If I can't be in person, I'll dial in. So yeah. Bianca?
I think the pros and cons are real. Like this year I was supposed to go speak in the US. I'm based in Canada. And then I turned out to be super pregnant. So I could have technically still gone on a plane, but the week I was supposed to go speak, I ended up hurting my leg and couldn't walk properly.
Wow.
So I would have made it anyway. I would have made something happen. But the fact that we ended up having to go online because of COVID was was very coincidental, but very helpful. But
So
there's
it's
lots of
your
times-
fault. Hold on.
It's totally
we
my
just
fault.
figured out who's to blame.
Or Betty, do you want to blame Emmett?
Yes,
My
it's
son?
totally- but he's the cutest.
I know,
cousin
now you
ever.
can't do it.
So yes, okay.
But so that's a temporary thing for me. But there's a lot of people where, because of what's going on in their lives, traveling isn't the best. I mean, if you're going to go to a conference like Devlin, you're going to Vegas for, a good chunk of the week. If you have small kids, that can be hard.
Mhm.
If you have a loved one you're taking care of, if you're juggling, let's say you're going to school at the same time you're working, that's hard. There's a lot of life circumstances where traveling to an event just isn't in the cards. It's not going to make you happy. Getting to go online is fantastic.
Mhm.
For sure.
Also, sometimes where you work prevents you from traveling. My husband worked for a government organization up here. The amount of rigmarole and hoops they have to jump through to get approval to spend government money to go to a conference outside of Canada is horrifying. A lot of times, people want to go to a conference in Europe, let's say, with really great speakers, different speakers than we sometimes have here in North America, but it's very expensive. Or vice versa. Someone from Europe would love to be better in touch with the North American market. That's pricey too. So something like an online speaking experience gives you opportunities you wouldn't have in person.
Agreed.
I will say I don't envy what Bianca and David and all of you all had to do in transitioning this to an online process, because it was late August, I think early September, before you all made that decision, and I can't imagine what you all had to go through to transition that. But I would say it did make it a lot easier for speakers like me, who were able to then just say, I don't have to worry about printing all this stuff off and taking it out there. It's just going to be online, and it's going to be so much easier. So kudos to you, to all of you, and I appreciate all that you did, because it did make a great experience in the face of something that was just really terrible.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And as an attendee, I can speak to, like, that was really my first virtual or any L&D conference, really. And I thought it was run really well. I loved the fact that there were sessions were recorded, and I was able to, rewatch them again, because, like was mentioned, like my life circumstances, I wasn't able to take off at that point in time, and definitely not 2 weeks off. And so the fact that, and I loved, so with the time difference, all of the conferences the sessions ended by like 1 p.m. And so once I was done with work, I got to, watch some of the videos that went online, and between meetings, I'd, be able to like pop in like around lunchtime to see if there was a session on. So I felt like that was just super helpful, that, it was streamed live, and otherwise, I don't know that I would have that opportunity if it were in person in Vegas. Yeah.
What is typically due as far as like timelines? And I believe, Kristen, this question is more about, like, do I have to turn my presentation in early? Is that kind of what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah. Do you have to get my slides or my talking points, way in advance of the conference? Or what's that timeline like, from application leading up to the day of?
Okay, Bianca, this is
Yeah, this one's me. Oh, Betty, you'll have some insights on this too. So, with a lot of the L&D conferences I've spoken at, there's not really anything that's mandatory up front. There's a lot more wiggle room with our industry events than I think other industries. Usually you'll get a timeline when you're accepted. If it's not right away, you'll get access to like a speaker center or a speaker timeline email quickly afterwards. They'll be like, here's your things that are due. Like, speaker headshots. That's easy. You're going to need to provide that no matter what. But things like your PowerPoint deck or speaking notes. I've never been asked to give speaking notes ever. I have been asked on rare occasion to mandatory have my slides in at some point. More often than not, it's if you would like to provide your slides to attendees, we need them by this date so we can make sure to have them online for the event. And that's the date for that is just really giving us enough time to put the files online, knowing that we're going to have a ton coming in at the same time. On average, and Betty, check this against your own memory of other events. It's usually about a month or so beforehand.
Yeah, like 3 weeks, a month. And I've never, ever submitted my slides.
Betty.
I know, but that's a good thing it's optional. So,
but
for shame, for shame.
Something that some events allow, though, is submitting your slides afterwards so that people can access them after the event. I recommend that only because we have a lot of attendees email us when we don't have slides up for someone and say, hey, is it possible to get that? It was super cool. It's a nice thing to do. And at that point, you already have the slides done, as long as there's nothing that you're not allowed from work perspectives to share. That's happened to us once in a blue moon where a speaker said, work won't allow me to share this case study slides, but otherwise it's usually okay. Yeah. It makes people happy, but at the end of the day, if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. Just check the rules for every conference, because every so often an event will want them ahead of time, but not freakishly ahead of time.
yes, not freakishly.
I think I had, go ahead, Betty.
I was just going to say, and just to clarify, like my slides typically have like zap codes on them and pictures. So it's not like I was not giving them, like my slides are just not, that's always why I didn't do it. Plus I was always finishing them the week before. Hey, listen, everybody has a process. Everybody has a process. Mine just happens to be a shorter timeline than most. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think I submitted mine a couple of days before the due date, and it was my first speaking engagement. So I was I wanted to get it in time because I didn't want them to be late. I didn't want to be that guy. And so I would make the effort to do that. And I will say, during my presentation, I was watching the chat, and probably a quarter or third of the questions that came in said, will you have this on? Can I download this? Can I look at this? I spoke about a paper that had been written. People were asking me, can I get that paper? And the one thing I did regret is I didn't find a way to make that available, because it was an educational paper. I expect they have to pay for it. And so I didn't go through the effort of making that available. So that's one thing to be conscientious about is, when you're looking at something like that, you might have to say, I can't make this available, but here's the information, and go out and find it if you can. And I almost reached out to the people who wrote the paper just in the hopes that they would allow me to distribute it. But I had so many other things I was trying to get done for this that I didn't go to that effort. So that is one of the things I would, be conscientious about and be aware of is, do try to get that that content or other resources that you could provide as early as possible, because the participants will ask for it. If you talk about it, they want it. They want to take home as much as they possibly can from the event. That's going to help them do their job better. That's why we're all there. And so it is valuable to provide all of those resources. I will say the only thing that I was disappointed by was I had to provide a headshot the week after I found out I was being accepted. And that was 4 months into a quarantine where I had not had a haircut. And I showed my daughter my picture, my oldest daughter, and she looked at it, she said, Dad, that's bad. That's real bad. So that's the only takeaway is, I make sure that you make an effort in the middle of a quarantine to continue to make your hair look nice, because mine was not, and it was awful.
Or develop the Photoshop skills to Photoshop your hair.
That too,
Photoshop your haircut.
Or you could pick a picture that happened before quarantine. That would have been okay.
Those are still bad too.
So take your speaker photo on a day you think you look really good.
Yeah, there you go.
And have it ready years in advance.
Yes, agreed.
But if you don't submit your slides ahead of time, because Brian and Betty both talked about some of the challenges with that, or having everything ready, I recommend people make speaker resource websites. You just use like a free website creator, and then if something changes, or like you're doing your slides up until the day before, or if your slides don't make a lot of sense without some additional context, or if you're going to, let's say, talk about a paper people might be keen on, that's all put all the information or links to where they might be able to pay to download it there. that can be helpful too.
Yeah, I
That's a
think that's a
great
great idea.
Mhm.
Nick Floro did that. I think he had 17 sessions this year, something like that.
7 million.
But his sessions were really good, and he did have a website that you could go to. And then I think Jonathan Hill did the same thing. He had a lot of his demo things online. So that's a great way to do that. I really do think that's a great way to do that.
If anyone's on the fence, what's your gut reaction to tell them?
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do
Yep.
it.
We swiped that right from Nike in the 90s. Like, just do it. Just,
Why not?
just
What does it
yeah,
cost
I mean,
you? A bit of time.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And if it doesn't work out, it's not like you can never apply again.
right.
It's not like you can't ask for feedback. Give it a try.
I will tell you, I've been in learning and development now for 13 years. And speaking at DevLearn was the best thing I've ever done for my career. Hands down,
I love
running away.
that.
I will.
Betty,
I will
can I
tell you,
get that
You
video
can.
snippet?
That's exactly
bet.
what I would just gasp about.
I
I'm
will
like,
do that.
Bianca, that's for you.
and I don't say that just because Bianca is on here, but it genuinely was. It was right after the new year. My family, there's 6 of us here. We were all going around. What was the best thing about 2020? And the kids said, "Oh, I had a great time at Christmas," or "This was great." And my wife said, "I got to do this," and they said, "Dad," and my wife said, "I already know Dad's. He spoke at DevLearn," and I went, "Well,
It's a thing.
yeah."
It's a thing.
It really was the best thing that I've ever done for my career, because I learned so much from doing that.
Mhm.
I've learned the process. I've made connections that, I will probably never, ever lose in my career. And I'm so grateful for that. It really was, it's worth it. It's all the
Mhm.
stress and nervousness, anxiety, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome. I'm not selling it here, I know,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
all of it is 100% worth it when you get done and you close out of that WebEx or that webinar. It really is the coolest feeling ever. It really is.